Greetings, brothers and sisters. So this video is about Chucky the King, right? King Chucky, and how he's in for a rough ride, which is hilarious. I love this sort of thing, right? This is my enjoyment of the apocalypse. And so it seems like it's just all lining up against him. And I'm going to go through it. Let me just show you all the articles first, and then I'll talk about it in a narrative at the end. So my wife sent this to me yesterday. This was from some book. I don't know what the book is. You can see it's a photocopied page. And so I assume this was, I think she said that it was from, I don't know when, some years back, right? An older book that talks about Nostradamus' prediction of Charles's death. And I don't, I can't verify this thing. I don't know the book. I'm not familiar with it. And, it's just, let's take it as entertainment. If somebody knows what book this is from, whatever. I think my wife knows, but she might have told me and I just don't remember. Too lazy to get up and ask. So let's just read it and see what it says here. This quatrain will come as no surprise to the British people. So here is what the quatrain means. In Nostradamus' written works, Century 8, Quatrain 97, published in 1555, the famous astrologer spoke of the great powers changing and a kingdom growing no more. So this is what it said. At the end of the war, the great powers change. Near the coast, 3 beautiful children are born. They will ruin the people when they come of age. They will change the kingdom and see it grow no more. So this was something that was originally published on July 3rd, 2022. What did Nostradamus predict in 2022? And so it starts off here, and it says, what did Nostradamus predict for 2022? Ukraine invasion, soaring heat, and Queen's death. And so these are all things that various articles were written. This one was written and then updated, since the Queen has died. But it was part of his so-called prophecies, and there's that. And its wide implications. The first is that Queen Elizabeth II will die circa 2022 at the age of around 96, 5 years short of her mother's term of life. Prince Charles will be crowned in her stead and become King of the Islands, the implication here being that he is no longer king of the other regions in the world over which his mother reigned, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, etc., which will have in turn become republics. Prince Charles will be 74 years old in 2022 when he takes over the throne, but the resentments held against him by a certain portion of the British population following his divorce from Diana, Princess of Wales, still persists. The pressure on him is so great and his aid so much against him that Charles agrees to abdication in favor of his son. The question is which son? For in the last line in Nostradamus makes it very clear that a man will replace him who never expected to be king. Does this mean that Prince William, who would have had expected to succeed his father, is no longer in the picture, and that Prince Harry, by process of default, becomes king in his stead? This is before William had kids. That would make him King Henry the Ninth, aged just 38 years old. And so this was before Meghan Markle's and all these things when this book was written. But, a lot of these things are lining up against him. I already was talking about Diana in a previous video, and we'll come back to all this at the end. So if you haven't seen the other video I put up today, Hollywood celebrities dropping like flies, Regina, and Mad Brit's comments about the Queen, this is also leading into this. It's a lot to do with the, Prince Chucky and all the rest of this, right? King Chucky.
Just a reminder, I'm Jake, not Chuck.
And so with that in mind, let's take a look at this guy, Peter Velshi, and his compadre going at it at their workplace of CNN.
And as beloved as Elizabeth was, she also represented an institution that had a long and ugly history of brutal colonialism, violence, theft, and slavery.
So this wouldn't be what they were saying 5 years ago, right? I don't know. Maybe 2 years ago they wouldn't have said it. 3 years ago, probably 4 years. Certainly 5, 6, 7 years, 10 years ago. None of this would be mentioned on mainstream news. And so there's been big changes here and then globally. We'll get into that in a bit.
For many centuries, the British robbed other nations of their wealth and power and exploited their people, even as Queen Elizabeth's reign largely marked the beginning of the post-colonial era. The horrors that her long line of ancestors inflicted upon many generations of people.
So he's trying to praise the Queen, which many people are doing, and slam the monarchy and the crown, right? Which, whatever, they want to do that, fine, but it's not honest. But here.
Across the globe continues to be the source of pain. That's now a legacy that her eldest son, King Charles III, inherits as the new head of state and the head of the British Commonwealth, or what is now known as the Commonwealth of Nations. He's got a massive task ahead of him as the country and his family face an uncertain future without the matriarch who's been their guiding star for so long.
So this was his point here. And then he invites a couple of people on.
Let's discuss this. The idea that there were people, we just had an historian say that there are many people who are queenists. They're not monarchists. They liked her. They're either bored with the institution or think that it needs to change or aren't going to be that into the next king. Give us your evaluation of that.
I think that's wildly overstated, frankly.
Boom. He's not agreeing. This guy's a monarchist.
I think when you look at all the opinion polls, we're about 80 to 85% in favor of having a constitutional monarchy.
80 to 85% in favor. So just so you know, study shows 60% of Britons believe in conspiracy theories. So there's a very strong truth movement there. Of course, we all know that, there's a variety of different levels to this, but 60% of them are truther friendly. And then in terms of the woke culture, right, two different things. When asked directly whether they thought they were woke, with no definition given, 16% said they were, 41% said they were not, and 31% they did not know what the term meant. So there's 16% that are woke and a pool of 60% that are conspiracy theorists, and then just a bunch of other people who probably don't like the royal family. I've heard lots of English people say that they were not into it. And so for him to say they have 85 or 80% is, those are, I don't believe those polls. Right? I think he's completely, I think this is complete fabrication on his part.
So I think this is extremely overdone, frankly. Rather, I'm afraid to say, as your introduction was, if we had given so much pain to people throughout history, why was Charles chosen by every single Commonwealth country, many of which are former imperial countries, as the head of the Commonwealth? We abolished slavery.
The answer to that is they're all going to say that now, right? Right now, they're not going to leave. Like, as soon as the Queen dies, they're not going to be like, hey, we're out, right? It's just, you don't do that. But we'll get back into that in a bit.
Hold on a second. Andrew, are you really denying what I just said about British colonialism? Are you really doing that, Andrew? Are you really doing that?
We abolished slavery.
Andrew, this is not a propaganda show.
Andrew, it's not a propaganda show, bro.
Andrew, I need you to stop.
He needs you to stop doing his propaganda.
Stop for a second. I need you to stop for a second. Are you really taking issue with the horrors of colonialism, Andrew?
I'm certainly taking issue with your remarks about slavery, which we abolished 32 years before you did, and we didn't have to kill 600,000 people in a civil war over it.
Kablowie, look at him go after him. Velshi, he's got you on your heels, bro. Velshi, Mr. Clean here, and then this dude with his, they both got hair issues here.
So you think that's fine, that there are people all over the world who are born in colonial countries, because when I was born, the British Empire still existed. That's okay for everybody to think.
Which country were you born in?
Kenya.
Right. And the Kenyans not only supported the appointment of Prince Charles, now King Charles, as the head of the Commonwealth, but we've just had a fantastic statement from the president of Kenya. Again,
no one's going to leave the day after the Queen dies. It's stupid. If there's going to be, and I'll get into this at the end of the video, but the whole thing, right now, it's just be rude. The body, body's still warm, right?
Kenya, saying what a wonderful thing.
And the President of the United
So-
States is going to attend her funeral. The fact
And
is...
so why on earth do you want to concentrate on only the negative things of
Exactly. Why don't you concentrate on the negative things?
an institution which is 100 years ago now?
Exactly. Why do you want to concentrate on, the negative things, like the fact that they invaded all these countries and they robbed them of their their foods and their resources, and they imposed a militaristic martial law type situation, got them addicted to drugs and, all the things that they did, the horrors of slavery and the cannibalism 300 years ago and Vlad the Impaler. Why don't you focus on the fact they get 40 million pounds per year? And so they can have these lavish parades where they're bedazzled in jewels from all of their subjugated countries, gold and jewels that they've robbed from these countries. Why don't you focus on that? Those parties, those great parties and things that they have where they dress up in fancy outfits. Why don't you focus on that stuff? Because that's the fun stuff.
I can read you my opening again. I didn't concentrate on it. I said that there are many people in the world, many millions of people in the world. I don't know if you have social media, but you should check it out. Who don't...
Boom. You don't have social media, bro.
...think we should be celebrating the British monarchy right now.
They're both pretty pissed.
And many in Britain, by the way. Many in Britain.
No, not many in Britain. Where are these people in Britain?
Where are those people? Let's see them.
I say between 10 and 15% of people.
Yeah, 10 or 15%, when 16% are woke, right? And 60% are potential conspiracy theorists. We'll get into that in a bit.
Don't want a monarchy.
So you're just prepared
It's
to
not many
discount 10
at
or
all.
15% of the British population who thinks this is an anachronism?
I think if 80 or 85% of people believe anything, you're far more likely and far more right to concentrate on them rather than the tiny minority. It's a bit like people who believe in, I don't know,
I'm quite happy,
Zoroastrianism.
actually. I actually think one of the failings of our history is that we don't
Boom. You bring it. He's bringing it here.
concentrate on minorities or the views of minorities.
Exactly. This guy who can't wait to demonize Trumpers and conspiracy theorists, but he wants to, make sure the minority of British people who are against the monarchy have a voice.
You and I will differ in that. I actually think that when there are minorities who don't see things the same way as everyone else, we should actually shine a light on them and have
Shine a light on them.
a discussion.
On a great national occasion like this, I really think to concentrate on what 10% people think rather than what 80 to 85% of people
Yeah,
think
there's a lot more people than
is
that around
just
the world who
absurd.
don't see it the same way, who grew up under the yoke of colonialism in the British Empire.
Exactly, bro. He's getting pissed still.
The way in which the leaders of the entire world are writing to even evil monsters like Putin are writing
Putin, like Putin.
to King Charles and saying what a great thing his mother's reign was, which started, as you actually had in your opening intro, you had her talk about the great imperial family to which we all belong. The idea that is in some way an attack on our past is
Putin.
absurd in my view.
Well, it's nice to be able to whitewash that sort of thing, Andrew, and I'm glad that you closed off with the idea that even Vladimir Putin had nice things to say about the Queen. That sort of
Velshi screwing him over with the last word here.
seals the conversation for us. Andrew, thanks very much for joining us.
Why are you thanking him? Why are you nodding? You hate each other. After Queen Elizabeth II's death, many Indians are demanding the return of the Koh-i-Noor diamond. This is from Time magazine. Shortly after British monarch Queen Elizabeth II passed away on September 8th, the word Koh-i-Noor began trending on Indian Twitter. It was in reference to one of the world's most famous gems. It's just one of 2,800 stones set in the crown made for Elizabeth's mother, known as the Queen Mother. But the 105-carat oval-shaped brilliant is the proverbial jewel in the crown. There it is there. Where is it? Is it there? And so the crown jewel, and they want it back, right? If the king's not going to wear the Koh-i-Noor, give it back, they said. And so it's time to get those stolen jewels back. King Chuck proclaimed King of Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland as Queen's coffin travels to Edinburgh. Meghan Markle reunites with royal family after Queen Elizabeth II's death. King Charles III furious. King Chuck III furiously gesturing aides to clear his desk. We'll see this here. This is going around, right? He gets in here. He's like, take this away. Take this away. Get this out of here. Get this out of here, MNF. Come on. Take that out of here. I need the space. I got to sign stuff. What's that even doing here? Get that out of here. Run that back. Comes up. He looks like, hey, MNF. Take that stuff. What is this stuff doing on my desk? You know better. Hey, you. Come on, slave. Get that out of my way. Right? Right in front of like the everybody here, right? All the big wigs, he's sitting down signing things. And, he kind of sucks, right? He's always been kind of King Chuck III allegedly told Harry not to bring Meghan Markle to Balmoral. Prince Harry says it's a lonely place at winter without the Queen. Okay, so I think about these things quite a bit. And I was already kind of thinking about this, and then I read some of the headlines, and my wife sent me the Nostradamus thing, and, whether that's legitimate or not or whatever it is. It's just a vortex of suck for Prince Chucky, right? Because there's just so many factors involved. It's the timing of the thing. Because right now, like I said, there's a lot of woke people and even more so-called truthers or conspiracy theorists in Great Britain. There's been a large movement there. There's, David Icke and some of these other people have been around for a while. David Icke is sort of the Alex Jones of England, right? And they've had these people that are anti the royal family even before that. So I think there's a great number of people who may not be speaking up now because of just etiquette and things like this. But, after the sort of dust settles, and it's easier to attack Charles than it was to attack Queen Elizabeth, an old lady who was supposed to be so great at her job, and a lot of people were fond of her, and she kind of made it through the test of time. And so Prince Charles has never been great. He's been awkward. He gets a real bad portrayal in The Crown, and the most popular royal family member in the last century is Diana. People love Diana on a global basis, and she was. Most people kind of have a sense she might have been murdered. And so there's that. And, Charles was in love with this woman the whole time, and it didn't play well on, in terms of just all over the world. Of course, The Crown, they make it seem like he's kind of more at fault for her, her, misery in their marriage because he married her while he was in love with this other person. Then he's just weird looking, and people don't like him. He's been waiting to be king forever. He's kind of bitter about it, right? His mom hung on forever. He's not really suited for it. Like, he just doesn't have it in him. He looks kind of like a doofus. And then they've just had this stuff with his son Harry, who it's rumored that there's a guy who looks just like Harry that was like her security guard or something, Diana's. And so it's like he's not even his kid or something like this. There's a lot of people who believe that, and then the stuff that happened with Meghan Markle's. And so it's the timing of like the woke culture and everything going on in the world. We're in a transitional time, and, COVID and the economic collapse and, all these things, right? People are already setting in on him. He's already got a meme. Like, he's just from like a day ago, right? And they're already crapping all over him. And, his mom isn't even in the ground yet, right? That's a bad sign for him. And so it just takes one of these countries to bail. Because once one of the countries bails, it opens up the doorway for them all to do it. Like, nobody wants to be first in terms of the Commonwealth. And they all want to, they pledged their allegiance to Queen Elizabeth, not to Charles and not to Chucky. And so, again, you can see that the British, the Crown always had to go and win these people over, these countries over when there's a change in leadership, and they had to buy them with this and that and the other thing. But now the energy bills are, sky high, and people are worried about their economic future, and you got this guy sitting on this opulent throne and all these things. It just doesn't, it just doesn't work, right? It's a kind of a nightmare on lots of different levels. Again, it's, just poor timing for him. He's the wrong guy at the wrong time, right? And so it just takes one of these countries to bail from the Commonwealth. And with each country that leaves, the Commonwealth gets weaker. And, there's this one British expert, a British person was saying that they might have better deals in better locations with more powerful countries if they bail on Great Britain, which is, a much weaker country right now. And so all of this, like once the Commonwealth sort of implodes, you have a king that nobody likes, a tourism business that's not as good. You have people are just kind of over it, and a shrinking empire, right? And like it's just great. Like I love these sort of things. I've talked about this before. When things just end up collapsing and going in the wrong direction, and so he's just he's so screwed. Like it's just everything's lined up against him in every possible way. When somebody's loved and is successful, and it looks like you possibly at least broke the heart of your wife, who was even more loved than the Queen, and was complicit in her murder, and one of your sons thinks, he's taking his wife to another country because he's worried what happened to his mom's going to happen to his family. And so, he doesn't trust the so-called firm, and who knows how much Charles was a part of that. And people don't like Camilla either. And so she's kind of illegitimate and all that stuff, right? And so his mom, who is successful for at least what she did, like she's not a good person, but she was viewed as with a much more favorable rating than him. And it's hard to follow somebody like that, right? It's hard to follow somebody, a popular president or whatever it is, especially when you're not as good at certain things. It's happened in my Heartfulness organization with the current master, having to follow somebody who was, just this mammoth, this epic person, right? It's always tough to follow somebody. If you, let's say you remarry, you marry somebody who had a great wife or husband who died, and they're, people are always remembered after they died as better than they were. And so he's competing against this ghost, and he's just, people just don't think he has it in him, right? And he seems pompous, and he's come off as just pretty much sucky. He was rejected in Wales in the beginning, and, they just don't like the guy, right? He just isn't, he just isn't the guy, right? He's the wrong guy. And like I said, it's the wrong time. And so it'll be great watching him implode and the empire implode, because it's long overdue. Only spirituality will save this world. It's paramount. I'll definitely point for the apocalypse and the ascension. Everyone have a blessed day and be grateful.